From the most trusted names in local news, KDPG Sunday Edition.
Good morning and happy Mother's Day and welcome to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm Stacy Smith. It seems that nothing in political life is as certain as death, taxes, and perhaps tariffs on imported goods. As far back as the late 1700s, tariffs were the main source of all federal revenue. Most presidents and the U.S. Congress have struggled with the economic benefits of imposing tariffs, weighed against the higher costs to consumers of imported merchandise when foreign governments retaliate by raising the price of those goods. And while trade talks took place this weekend, the Chinese became the center of attention. Katherine Johnson has more on what is at stake.
We were getting very close to a deal, then they started to renegotiate the deal. We can't have that.
Lawmakers here in Washington are divided over the president's tough stance on China.
The president being firm is absolutely the right thing to do after all the cheating that they've done.
This upheaval and uncertainty between the United States and China is not in the best interest of the economy in the long term.
Some experts estimate a tariff increase to 25% would cost the average family of four $767 a year.
A lot of people try and steer it in a different direction. It's really ultimately it's paid for largely by China. And businesses will pour back into our country.
China says it will retaliate in response to tariff hikes. Katherine Johnson, CBS News, the White House.
This morning on the KDPG Sunday Edition, the battle over tariffs and how it affects you. Later in the program, we will hear from Jay Sukitz from the University of Pittsburgh's Katz Graduate School of Business. Right now, though, we welcome two other guests. Dr. Lawrence Alice is associate professor of economics at Carnegie Mellon University's Tepper School of Business. And Dennis Unkovic is a partner with the Pittsburgh law firm Meyer, Unkovic & Scott. He has extensive experience in negotiating business transactions and advising foreign and domestic clients and American companies about international activities and investments. Mr. Unkovic has traveled to Asia, including China, over the years as part of his practice. Joe Smido, the editorial writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joins us for this morning's discussion. Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the KDPG Sunday Edition.
Thanks for having us.
I don't want to get in too much into the basics, but if we can just do a quick review of exactly what a tariff is designed to do for a country. Is it to level the playing field? And by that, I mean that if a country, let's say, has wheat, grows wheat, and another country has a surplus of wheat and they can sell it for less money than what the original country has, then the original country starts to impose a tariff to try to even the playing field. Is that about right?
Well, maybe it's easier to understand on what will be the implication of applying a tariff in terms of its ultimate outcomes. Usually, we think about the winners and losers of imposing this tariff. And on the winning side, we'll have your competitor. So in your example will be the wheat producer. You impose a tariff, that wheat producer will be able to sell its goods at a higher price. So he will be on the winning side. The losing side is also present here, and you will have the consumer who ultimately will pay a higher price for wheat, whether it comes from domestic producer or foreign producer. And in your example will be the baker. Anybody who uses wheat now will have a higher cost of inputs.
And then that baker is going to pass that price along to the consumer.
Sure. Certainly. And we've seen now the first research coming out. There have been a couple of papers, one in March, one in April. And economists have been tracking these prices since last February when the first tariffs came into place on washing machine at that time. And the numbers are staggering in the sense that we see overall increase of about 12% in the cost of a washing machine. I think about $80 to $100, and these costs will be entirely or are entirely on the consumer. So the question mark was what fraction of these added costs will be passed on the consumer. The numbers we're seeing now is all of them.
Okay, if that's the case, why then would the consumer price index and the wholesale price index be hovering at 2% or below as far as inflation is concerned?
Yeah, so the latest number is 2.1 for excluding food and energy. So it's been creeping up. So the overall consumer durables are smaller components, so that will not be a 12% increase in a subset of consumer durable will not be causing a upward trend. Now, with the latest round, as we start having a broad tariff on all goods pretty much now, as we're seeing with the latest round, we might see upward pressure on prices overall.
All right, Dennis, your take on how it faring out with China right now? And I should make note of this, by the way. We are recording this program on Friday. By the time it airs, there could be a whole new deal, and the markets could be surging ahead and everything else, as opposed to what it is on Friday morning.
Let me make it as simple as I can. China imported to the U.S. $535 billion worth of stuff about a year ago. We exported to China about $175 billion. So the difference there is the trade deficit.
Right.
President Trump is trying to push down that trade deficit. I think that using tariffs in the way he's doing it are not going to be particularly effective. If I have a microphone on here, if this microphone is imported to the United States from China, it costs $100. There's a 25% tariff on it. The importer pays $25 that goes to the U.S. government, okay? And then the government gets money, but then the consumer who's going to buy the microphone here has to pay $125. What President Trump is threatening to do today is to put on $535 billion worth of stuff, tariffs at either 10 or 25%. I don't think that's going to be particularly effective in dealing with the Chinese, because the Chinese are now our equals. I don't mean they're better than we are, I want to be clear, but they're a sophisticated economy. It's not like your high school student who makes you unhappy, so you say, I'm going to take the car away for a week. That doesn't work anymore. So it's a very sophisticated relationship, and tariffs are really a tax on the U.S. consumer.
All right, now excuse me, Joe, I'll let you get it, but I just want to ask this. On Thursday, though, came the latest trade deficit numbers, and it's a 5-year low for the amount of money that the United States, the trade deficit is at a 5-year low with trade with China.
We buy less of things that are more expensive.
Is that what I'm
I agree with that. Yeah, we're buying less expensive things, so it's going to go down. It will vary, but I think we can both agree that this deficit is never going to disappear. It can become smaller, it can become managed, but to say the United States will sell more to China than we will buy for them, I think is simply unrealistic. Do you agree, Doctor?
If I can add one thing also, looking only at bilateral trade deficit is also potentially misleading, because we've seen it in the past. Countries might simply switch production to other countries. A company that's producing today in China might decide and slowly move its production to Southeast Asia, in which case you would see a reduction in the trade deficit with China.
But it's going to go up somewhere else. Exactly. Well, and I do want to get into that, because that's one of the things that appears to be happening to some degree, is about some U.S. companies are moving production out of China. But you wanted to go somewhere.
Well, we talked about the impact on the consumer, but doesn't the impact vary by sector of the economy? I mean, tariffs have boosted the steel industry in many ways, but they've hurt the agricultural industry so far. Is that not true?
Oh, sure.
No, go ahead, please.
If we go back to our list of winners and losers, only direct competitors will benefit. If suddenly you are facing retaliatory tariff on soybeans, is the key example, then you'll be on the losing end. So this is not a consumer versus firm; is a subsector of a certain industry against subsector of other industries.
You're absolutely right. Certain tariffs work well. If you're going to target only steel for a tariff, you can help that part of the U.S. industry. And frankly, I support the tariffs on Chinese steel at this time for what they're doing. But to impose $35 billion worth of tariffs on goods doesn't make any sense. I believe in using a laser beam, not a shotgun, where you're spraying everything out. So parts of the economy are helped. Most are hurt by these tariffs.
But if you use the laser beam, what's to prevent the other side from using the shotgun approach in retaliation?
Well, it's the question of who would be hurt more in the long run, Joe. And I think in the long run, China will be hurt more than the U.S. But our economy now is at an all-time low for unemployment. Will that continue? I think most economists predict that 0.1%, you're going to see a change per month as these tariffs are imposed. And I think that could be a serious thing for the U.S. economy.
It's interesting you say you support the steel tariffs, the aluminum tariff, I believe, as well.
Yes, aluminum also.
All right, but many people say that while it's helped the steel manufacturer, it hasn't really brought the jobs back to this country as thought would happen.
So if I can add to that, there is a sense in which there is a bit of an overcapacity in steel at the moment in the United States. This is also a global phenomenon. And as you just said, the unemployment is very low, so it's unclear how you can bring in additional workers into these industry. I found very interesting the investment announced last week by U.S. Steel, the $1 billion project on the Monvalde works. That type of investment might have been accelerated from higher profits that have been generated in the last year. The implication of it are quite interesting because it's not an investment aimed at increasing capacity, at increasing the amount of steel produced. It's aimed at increasing productivity and lowering cost. There is a sense in which some of these investment might displace workers. So when you say help the steel industry, who in the steel industry?
Who in the steel industry
It's
does
also,
it necessarily help?
Yes.
I want to get to something that you brought up, and because it was a subject of an article in the Wall Street Journal on Thursday. China hardens trade stance as talks enter a new phase, and it also asks, can this marriage be saved? Chinese-U.S. integration phrase. And one of the things they say is the signs are accumulating. Manufacturers of shoes, cameras, and iPhones are looking to move production beyond China. American officials are forcing Chinese investors to sell their stakes in American startups. The Chinese scientists' visas to visit the U.S. are facing delays as well. Are we seeing this sort of thing happening, and what will be the impact of this long term if indeed U.S. manufacturers are going to stop using China?
Well, we've seen it in the past. Like, for example, in 2012, there were a set of tariffs against South Korea, and South Korea moved some of its production to China at that stage. There is a sense in which now something that would happen naturally in China anyway because of increasing in wages, production would move to where workers are cheaper. So we would naturally see a movement in supply chains. Tariffs will accelerate this. So there is a sense in which global supply chain might readjust quickly away from China and in other directions.
Is it a possibility also that the American company that wants to produce a product and can do it less expensively in China, that now some of the other countries can do it less expensively than China can do? Is that what we're...
That's happening all the time. You see this happening. We used to manufacture in Southeast Asia, then Korea, then China. It's now moving to Cambodia, Bangladesh, and elsewhere throughout Southeast Asia. The production will always follow the least expensive labor cost. Assuming the materials that go into something are the same, they're a global commodity, it's always going to chase where the cheapest labor is. And that's something that this tariff has nothing to do with. It's basic economics.
When you have a trade war, can there be sort of tertiary fronts? I mean, for example, does the government start taking a harder line on IP theft? Or does the government start denying Chinese companies or Chinese investors the right to invest in U.S. companies? Are those sorts of games or strategies employed as well?
We have a law called CFIUS, C-F-I-U-S, and basically it says if there's a national security interest of a foreign company buying a U.S. company, the U.S. government will look at it and can halt it. And the Trump administration has been aggressively imposing this, particularly on Chinese companies. Broadcom, the Broadcom people, that was a big deal, a multi-billion-dollar deal that was stopped because of that. On the Chinese side, what the Chinese can do is they can, every time a good's going to go out of the country, they can inspect it. They can inspect it in a day, they inspect it in a week, they can inspect it in a month. So these are non-tariff kinds of barriers that the Chinese are very good at using, and so I think both sides have something to play.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us this morning. Dennis, you're going to stick around. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. When the KDPG Sunday edition continues, the impact of trade wars on the U.S. economy, including the stock market. Jay Sukitz from the University of Pittsburgh's Katz Graduate School of Business will be joining us.